In the most unforgiving corner of the Arctic, where temperatures plunge to -71 Celsius and storms erase all signs of life, one mother made the ultimate sacrifice. A mother polar bear, frozen solid in the storm, her body a living shield wrapped around her cub. But was she still alive? Mark had patrolled these frozen wastelands for 12 years. He'd seen mirages, ghost shadows, but something about this shape made him stop. His gut screamed at him. Years of instinct took over. He killed the engine and stepped into the storm. Every step forward felt like walking into a nightmare. What he thought was ice began to take shape. This wasn't a glacial formation. This was death, wearing a mother's body. Mark's glove touched her flank. Cold, rigid, lifeless. He pulled back. Beneath the armor of frost, he felt it. A tremor, faint as a whisper, a heartbeat refusing to surrender. With numb fingers, he clawed at the ice crust. And there, pressed against her belly, a cub, eyes closed, body limp, breath so shallow it might already be a memory. Mark knew the math of hypothermia. Every minute was a countdown, and he was alone. He slammed the radio button. Once, twice. Nothing but the howl of the void answered him. Logic screamed at him to leave, to ride for help, but Mark made the unthinkable choice to move an apex predator. What followed was a battle against physics, frost, and his own limitations. Inch by brutal inch, he dragged 800 pounds of unconscious predator onto a sled designed for supplies, not miracles. The cub was dying, so Mark did the only thing left. He became its warmth. His own heartbeat became the cub's lullaby, his warmth its lifeline. Strapped down and unconscious, the mother was a ticking bomb. If she woke during the ride, there was no escape, no room for error. Mark twisted the throttle and flew across the ice, praying to gods he stopped believing in years ago. One man, two dying bears, and miles of frozen hell between them and survival. Then, through the white chaos, a light. His cabin, sanctuary. The cabin door slammed open. Mark became a man possessed, dragging, lifting, fighting. This was no longer a home. It was a battlefield. An 800-pound predator lay in his living room, and the real fight was just beginning. For hours that bled into eternity, Mark worked. Warm towels, gentle pressure. He massaged frozen limbs, coaxing blood through veins that had nearly given up. Too fast, and he triggered shock. Too slow, and he lost them. A dance on the edge of a knife. He placed the cub against its mother's chest, covered them both. All he could do now was wait. The cabin became a womb, warm, dark, trembling with fragile hope. Silence, heavy, endless, and then a sound so small it might be imagined. A squeak. Mark exhaled a breath he didn't know he was holding. The cub was fighting back. Warmed goat milk, a makeshift bottle, and a prayer. At first, the cub refused. Then instinct took over. It latched. It drank. And with every swallow, death lost its grip. Then, a shift, a presence. The mother was waking. A growl, low, primal, bone deep, shook the walls. Mark's blood turned to ice. Her eyes, sharp and ancient, locked onto him. He was holding her baby. He was a stranger. He was prey. Mark didn't run, didn't shout. He lowered his eyes, the universal language of submission. His hands continued their gentle work. His life hung on whether she understood. I am not your enemy. She rose, massive, unstoppable, and walked toward him. She sniffed the air, the milk, the warmth, the fire, her baby's steady breathing. And then something impossible happened. She laid her massive head down. She chose trust. For 3 days, the cabin became an unlikely sanctuary. While outside, the storm raged on. The world outside was hell, but inside, a fragile peace held. The cub regained strength, wobbling across the wooden floor, slipping around on polished wood like ice, and chewing Mark's bootlaces like they were the greatest treasure on earth.
The cub slowly regained its strength. Its legs trembled as it wobbled across the wooden floor, unfamiliar and smooth beneath its paws. Each clumsy slip looked like play, but it was learning, step by step, how to stand again. The tiny cub played with him, discovering the world one curious bite at a time. To the cub, Mark's bootlaces weren't just leather and string, they were the greatest treasure on Earth. For the first time in 12 years of Arctic solitude, Mark laughed. The mother recovered more slowly, dehydrated, damaged, but her eyes never left her baby. She accepted water from Mark's hands without baring teeth. Thawed fish, offered carefully, accepted gracefully, a language beyond words. He sat in silence, his finger hovering over the radio, knowing this moment could not be undone. Every instinct told him to hold on, but duty demanded he let go. With a quiet breath, he pressed the button and made the call that would end the dream. And then, slowly, the storm loosened its grip. The sky opened. One last night. A fragile moment of peace in a world that was never meant to exist, yet somehow did. A scene that defied every protocol, every instinct, and every law of nature. Nothing in their training had prepared them for what waited beyond that door. Team reading quietly, the cub asleep on his lap, and the mother dozing by the fire like a house pet. The mother was tranquilized, gently, carefully. Mark stood back, letting them work. The cub squeaked, confused as they lifted it into the carrier. The bears needed professional medical care. Frostbite, muscle damage. They had to go. The mother was tranquilized, gently, carefully. Mark stood back, letting them work. The cub squeaked, confused as they lifted it into the carrier. At the wildlife hospital, they received the care Mark couldn't give. Veterinarians worked quietly, treating the mother's frostbite with precision. Every movement focused on giving her a second chance at survival. Life at the cabin returned to loneliness, to silence, to the way it had always been. Weeks later, release day. Back to the sea ice. Back to the wild. Weeks later, release day. Back to the sea ice. Back to the wild. The mother stepped onto the ice. The cub followed. They were free. Mark watched the footage alone, his chest tight, his hope silent. They walked into the vastness, wild, free, as they should be, and Mark let them go.